The sunlight danced through the leaves as the photographer called out, "All right, groom, hold her waist. Bride, look up and smile." Maya beamed, her ivory dress shimmering under the soft summer light. Everything felt surreal, like a fairy tale she'd waited her whole life to live. Her sister Amara adjusted her veil, while the guests clapped from a distance. Laughter rang in the air, champagne flutes sparkled, and the garden behind Calvin's family estate looked like it had been plucked from a bridal magazine. But then, bark, bark, bark. A scruffy little mutt from the neighbour's yard started barking, its nose poking through the slats of the fence. Calvin's jaw tightened. He muttered, "Stupid mutt," and as Maya stepped aside to adjust her gown, she caught from the corner of her eye his foot jolt violently toward the fence. A small yelp came from the other side. No one else seemed to notice, except Grandma Pearl. She was standing just behind Maya, leaning slightly on her cane, her face unreadable. Her hand, warm, rough with age, slid into Maya's, and her voice, low and grave, whispered into her ear, "Never trust a man who shouts at dogs. They tell you what kind of heart he really has." Maya blinked, "Grandma." But Pearl only patted her hand gently and stepped back, blending into the crowd like smoke. Maya turned toward Calvin, who now wore his signature charming grin, waving toward the camera. "It's fine," he said under his breath when she brought it up later. "I was just frustrated. Dumb dog almost ruined our shot." She laughed softly, pushing away the moment like a smudge on a glass. "Okay," she said. "Okay." That night, in their honeymoon suite, Calvin couldn't find his cufflinks. A small thing, really, but he ransacked his suitcase, cursing under his breath. Maya gently offered to help, reaching for his shoulder. "Maybe we left them in the car, babe. It's not a big—" "Damn it, Maya! Why didn't you double check?" The words cracked the air like a whip. His voice wasn't just loud, it was sharp, mean. For a moment, she froze. Then he caught himself, ran a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry. I'm just tired. It's been a long day." She smiled, brushing it off. "We're both tired. Let's sleep." She climbed into bed, curling toward the edge. He joined her moments later, pulling her close, whispering apologies. Maya closed her eyes, telling herself it was nothing, just stress, just a moment. But a quiet echo lingered in her mind, Grandma Pearl's voice. "They tell you what kind of heart he really has." Maya had always been the quiet one, the gentle one. After her mother passed away from a sudden illness when Maya was just 8, Grandma Pearl stepped in to raise her and her younger sister, Amara. Their father, though still around, was distant and disconnected, showing up to school recitals out of obligation, not love, and often retreating behind the safety of his newspaper or a bottle when emotions got too loud. Pearl, on the other hand, was love in its fiercest form. Stern but nurturing, she taught Maya how to cook, how to braid hair, how to sit with her feelings without being ashamed of them. She taught her that kindness was strength, not weakness. "The world is full of people who'll try to break soft hearts," she'd say, while peeling sweet potatoes. "But don't you ever harden yours for them. They don't deserve that power." Maya carried that softness into adulthood. She grew into a woman who cried at sad commercials and painted murals for the local shelter on weekends. Her dream, ever since high school, was to open a small community art center for underprivileged kids, somewhere kids could feel safe and express themselves like she once needed to. That's where she met Calvin. It was a warm October morning during a neighborhood art volunteer event. Calvin had been helping install panels for a children's mural when their hands met over a bucket of paint. He was tall, smooth-voiced, and wore charm like it came naturally. He listened, or at least, he seemed to. He complimented her work, asked about her dreams, remembered the names of her students when she mentioned them. He was the kind of man who opened doors, paid attention, and looked great doing it. Everyone adored him. Amara called him a walking rom-com. Maya's co-workers gushed. Even their father, stoic and hard to please, remarked, "Now that's a man who'll take care of you." Everyone except Grandma Pearl. She never outright said anything, but she watched, studied him, like she was waiting to catch something invisible to everyone else. "He smiles with his teeth," she said one evening, slowly sipping her tea, "but not always with his eyes." Maya waved it off. Pearl was old-fashioned, maybe too cautious. Calvin had done nothing but treat her well, always picking her up after work, encouraging her dream, telling her she was different from other women. You're a real one, Maya, not like these girls who play games. She felt chosen. After the wedding, Maya moved into Calvin's suburban house on the east side of Atlanta. A big, beautiful home with open spaces and closed doors. At first, it was blissful. New furniture, weekend brunches, soft music playing as they danced barefoot in the kitchen. Calvin even suggested setting aside a room for her future art studio. He told her they'd look into funding for the community center when the time was right. But slowly, things shifted. Calvin began coming home quieter, irritated by little things. Her music, her laughter, her calls with Amara. I just think we should focus on us now, he'd say, gently at first. Your sister's great, but maybe we need some boundaries, babe. She agreed. She loved him, and maybe he was right. Maybe Grandma and Amara needed to give them space. When Maya started missing family dinners, she excused it as adjusting to married life. When she missed Grandma's birthday and sent flowers instead, she told herself it was okay. She could always make it up next year. But Pearl noticed. The calls got shorter, her voice softer, sadder. You okay, baby? She'd ask. I'm fine, Grandma, Maya would say, trying to sound upbeat. Just busy. Calvin's working more hours, and I've been tired. Pearl didn't push. She never did. But the calls came more often, quietly persistent, like a light blinking on the dashboard that Maya kept ignoring. And the cracks kept forming. Calvin stopped asking about the art center. When she brought it up, he laughed. You're sweet, Maya, but you can't run a business. You're too emotional. That's why I love you, though. You feel everything. He'd say it like a compliment, but it never felt like one. When she cried watching a student's graduation video, he chuckled. You really got to grow a thicker skin, babe. Everything doesn't have to be a Hallmark movie. She told herself he didn't mean it. He was just tired, just stressed. But somewhere deep inside, the seed of doubt began to take root. Not about him, but about herself. Maybe she was too soft. Maybe she did overreact. Maybe love really wasn't enough. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon when it happened. Maya was trimming the hibiscus bushes along the side of the driveway, humming softly to herself, sweat glistening on her forehead under the Georgia sun. Calvin had just pulled in from work, still in his crisp shirt and slacks, briefcase in one hand, phone in the other. Their neighbor's dog, a small, scruffy terrier named Bobo, darted toward the property line as Calvin passed. The little dog barked like it always did, territorial but never dangerous. Then, without warning, the dog lunged and bit at Calvin's ankle. It wasn't deep, more of a scratch with a nip. But Calvin's face twisted, fury boiling over in seconds. Before Maya could even stand up fully, he kicked out violently, his leather shoe landing square in Bobo's side. The yelp was high-pitched and heart-wrenching. Calvin! Maya screamed. The neighbor, Mrs. Dorsey, an elderly widow, rushed outside from her porch. Bobo? What happened? Calvin stepped back, breath heaving, and immediately dropped his briefcase like it was part of the act. Your damn dog attacked me, he shouted, lifting his pant leg to reveal the small red mark. You need to keep him on your side of the fence. This isn't the first time he's barked at me. Maya's stomach churned. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The kick echoed in her ears, louder than the lie. Mrs. Dorsey scooped the trembling dog into her arms, cradling him like a child. I'm sorry, she said, blinking back emotion. He's never bitten anyone before. Calvin turned to Maya, face expectant, waiting for her to back him up. She gave a weak nod. He got startled. Maybe something triggered him. Her words felt like betrayal stuck in her throat. That night, dinner was quiet. Calvin ate quickly, barely looking at her. She picked at her salad, appetite gone. After the dishes were cleared, she finally said, You didn't have to kick him like that, Calvin. He's a small dog. He froze, turned slowly. Are you serious right now? Maya hesitated. I just mean, you could have walked away. He didn't really hurt you. Calvin scoffed, then laughed bitterly. Wow, so now I'm the villain? I get attacked, and you're siding with the damn mutt? That's not what I... Before she could finish, he stood and hurled his glass into the wall behind her. It shattered into pieces, wine dripping down the beige paint like blood. Maya flinched hard, heart pounding. He didn't come toward her. He didn't say a word. He just stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. She didn't follow. Instead, she grabbed a pillow from the couch and curled into it, shaking in the dim light of their open living room. At some point past midnight, She heard him step softly toward her. She pretended to be asleep. He crouched beside the couch and whispered, "Maya, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." She opened her eyes. His face was streaked with tears. "I've just been under so much pressure. Work is hell. And then you—" His voice cracked. "You questioned me. I felt alone." She didn't speak. He pressed his forehead against her arm. "It won't happen again. I swear. I love you." Maya nodded faintly, but something in her had splintered. The next morning, her phone rang. Grandma Pearl. Maya hesitated, then picked up. "Hi, Grandma." Her voice cracked on the second word. Pearl didn't ask what happened. She didn't press. She just said, "Dogs bark at spirits we can't see, Maya. They bark at violence, even before we do." The silence between them was heavy. Then Pearl added softly, "Be careful, baby. You deserve to feel safe where you sleep." At first, it was small things. Calvin started taking over their finances. "You're not really a numbers person, babe," he'd say with a charming smile. "Let me handle the bills. One less thing for you to stress over." Then he stopped asking her about the art centre. When Maya brought it up, he'd either change the subject or respond with thinly veiled contempt. "You still on that dream?" he'd ask, while scrolling through his phone. "You think some kids with crayons is going to pay our mortgage? Grow up, Maya. Life isn't a mural." Her calls with Amara grew shorter, more strained. Calvin always managed to create a reason for her not to visit. A work dinner, a quiet weekend, or just guilt. "You talk to your sister more than you talk to your own husband." Maya stopped arguing. She stopped a lot of things. She no longer played music while cooking. She no longer danced barefoot in the kitchen. Her laughter, once so easy, so full, had grown measured, careful. Still, Maya needed a place for her voice. She picked up her journal again, one she'd hidden away since college. She began sketching late at night, drawings of wilting flowers, trapped birds, broken mirrors. Sometimes she wrote letters she never sent, to Amara, to Grandma Pearl, to herself. She kept it hidden under her sweaters in the closet, until one evening, after folding laundry, Calvin found it. At first, there was silence, then the sound of tearing, page by page. Maya rushed into the bedroom to find him ripping through her drawings like they were lies he had to destroy. Her heart stopped. "What is this crap?" he snapped, holding up a page of a woman screaming into a pillow. "You showing this to people? You want them thinking I'm some kind of monster?" "I draw to breathe, Calvin," she whispered, voice trembling. "That's all it is." He stared at her. Then suddenly, he grabbed her phone off the nightstand and hurled it across the room. It cracked against the dresser. A framed photo of Grandma Pearl shattered with it. Maya didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood frozen, her hands shaking as he paced back and forth, muttering to himself. The next day, she cleaned up the glass alone, carefully tucked the cracked photo into the drawer. And that's when she realized she wasn't staying because of love anymore. She was staying because she was afraid. Afraid of him. Afraid of what leaving would unleash. That fear became her shadow. Calvin's moods shifted like storms. He could be sweet in the morning and boiling by sunset. He picked at her insecurities like threads, unraveling her piece by piece. "Maybe if you dressed better, I'd want to take you out more. You cry too much. You're like a child. You should be grateful. No one else would put up with you." She started believing him. One night, after a fight over nothing, some misplaced keys, a forgotten text, Calvin's yelling spilled through the open window. He shouted so loud a child outside on the sidewalk burst into tears. Their neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, a retired army veteran who'd lived next door for 20 years, came to check in. "You okay, Maya?" he asked softly through the screen door. Calvin stepped in, smiling. "Sorry about the noise, Mr. Jenkins. Just a little misunderstanding. She thought I forgot her birthday." He chuckled. "But it's next week." Later that week, 2 officers knocked at the door. Mr. Jenkins had called in a welfare check after hearing too many loud nights. Calvin turned on the charm. "We're just passionate people," he laughed, arm around Maya's stiff shoulders. "You know how marriage is." Maya stood beside him, silent, hollow-eyed. When the officers asked her directly, she smiled. "I'm fine." They left. The house felt smaller after that. The next morning, Maya stayed in bed long after Calvin had gone to work. She didn't answer calls. She didn't move. Just stared at the ceiling, blank and grey. And then, an unexpected knock. Maya opened the door to find Grandma Pearl standing there, arms crossed, eyes scanning her like an X-ray. She didn't say a word at first, just stepped inside. looked around the house, the shattered photo still in the drawer, the faint crack in the wall from the thrown glass. Then she turned to Maya. Her face softened. Baby. Maya collapsed into her arms. No words, just sobbed. Pearl held her, brushing her hand gently across Maya's hair, like she used to when Maya was small and afraid of thunderstorms. When the sobs slowed, Pearl whispered, I warned you. You thought I was talking about dogs, but I was talking about heart. Maya pulled back, eyes wet. I didn't see it, Grandma. I thought he loved me. Pearl sighed. He loves control. That's not the same thing. And in that quiet living room, where broken dreams still hung in the air, Maya realized something had to change, or she wouldn't survive. It had been weeks since Amara showed up unannounced, claiming she just wanted sister time. But Maya saw through it. She had always been the observant one. That night, they sat on the porch sipping tea, the air humid and still. Amara looked Maya in the eye, firm but gentle. I don't trust him, Maya. I know you're scared. You don't have to say it, but I see it. Just take this. Keep it with you. Use it if you need to. She handed Maya what looked like a simple pen, but it had a voice recorder inside. Just in case, Amara said. Maya tucked it into her journal, unsure if she'd ever use it. But a part of her, a part that was slowly waking up, knew the day was coming. And it did. One rainy Tuesday, Maya forgot to replace the toothpaste in the bathroom. That was it. That was the spark. Calvin stormed into the bedroom where she was folding laundry, holding the half-empty tube in his hand like evidence in a trial. You can't remember basic things, Maya. Are you that useless? She didn't answer. She just kept folding the towel in her lap, silently. Then he spotted the necklace, her mother's delicate gold chain with a tiny sapphire charm, the only thing Maya had left of her. He yanked it off the dresser. Maybe if you stopped clinging to the past, you'd function better in the present. No, Calvin, don't! Before she could reach him, he threw it to the ground and stomped on it. The sound of metal snapping under his heel tore through her like glass. Maya gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. Calvin, chest heaving, stood above her, with eyes that no longer looked like the man she married. You're going to cry now? Over a piece of metal? And then he began pacing, yelling again, screaming about how she was weak, broken, pathetic, that no one else would love her, that she was lucky he stuck around. What Calvin didn't know was that Maya had slipped her hand into her journal minutes earlier. The pen was already recording. What neither of them knew was that Mr. Jenkins was outside again, phone in hand, filming from his porch through the blinds, audio crisp through the open kitchen window. That night, when Calvin finally left to get air, Maya moved quickly. She grabbed her bag, already packed weeks ago. She placed the shattered necklace gently into a cloth pouch. She took her phone, the pen recorder, and the journal, and she slipped out the back door. She texted Calvin, spending the night at the school conference center. Be back tomorrow. But she wasn't going to any conference. She drove straight to Amara's place. When Amara opened the door and saw her sister's tear-streaked face and shaking hands, she didn't ask questions. She just stepped aside. That night, they called a domestic abuse lawyer. The next morning, they filed for a restraining order and submitted the recordings and video to the court. Maya moved into Grandma Pearl's house. The air felt cleaner there. Every breath didn't come with the weight of anticipation. But Calvin wasn't done. He called everyone, mutual friends, Maya's old co-workers, even Amara's fiancé, told them she had a breakdown, claimed she was emotionally unstable and had started seeing someone else. He painted himself as the confused, heartbroken husband. The mediation hearing was scheduled 3 weeks later. He showed up smug, wearing a navy blazer and forced concern, tried to play the hurt husband card, telling the mediator he just wanted Maya to come home, that he was willing to forgive her emotional outbursts. Maya didn't say much. She didn't need to. Amara reached into her folder and pulled out a flash drive. We'd like to submit audio and video documentation. The mediator clicked play. Calvin's voice exploded from the speaker. The insults, the slamming, the snap of the necklace, the gutting silence of Maya's voice in the midst of it all. Then came the video, Mr. Jenkins' footage. Calvin, pacing and screaming through the window. The room went quiet. Calvin froze. The mediator stared at him, expression unreadable. You lied, she said plainly. Maya looked at him then, really looked. He wasn't confused. He wasn't heartbroken. He was cornered. For the first time, she saw it not through fear, but clarity. He had never been just angry. He had always been unsafe, and she had survived him. The papers were signed within 2 months. Maya's hands trembled as she walked out of the courthouse, not from fear, but from the release. Years of holding her breath finally exhaled in one long, cleansing sigh. Amara waited by the steps, arms open. They hugged for a long time, not saying anything. Some victories were too sacred for words. With Amara's help, Maya filed formal charges for the destruction of property and verbal assault. The recordings helped. The neighbor's video added weight. Calvin's charm couldn't carry him through the evidence. A judge ordered anger management sessions and a psychological evaluation. He lost his job as a community outreach coordinator after the police report went public. Maya didn't follow his spiral. She had no interest in watching him unravel. Her focus had shifted, finally, back to herself. She moved into a small apartment near the river. It was modest, but it was hers. No footsteps to fear. No slammed doors, no sharp silences. Therapy became her anchor. Twice a week, she sat across from a quiet, kind woman who helped her untangle years of shame, gaslighting, and silent fear. Maya rediscovered her own voice, thread by thread. She picked up her pencils again. Her sketchbooks filled quickly. Images of broken glass, then blooming flowers. Storms, then sunlight. She wasn't just processing. She was creating again. Grandma Pearl came to stay. Just for a little while, she said, but her steady presence stretched into months. She filled the home with warmth, gumbo on the stove, blues on the radio, her low hum echoing through the evenings. Then came the inheritance. Pearl had tucked it away. For a rainy day, she said, and Maya used it to do what she had always dreamed of, open a small art centre for kids in the neighbourhood. The place was bright, filled with colour and music and stories. It became a refuge, just like she had needed once. Sometimes Maya would talk to the women who came through support groups held on weekends. She never told her story with drama or pity, just honesty, calm, clear, and fierce in its vulnerability. I didn't realise how bad it was until I stopped calling it love, she'd say. Fear isn't love. Silence isn't peace. And being alone is never worse than being with someone who makes you feel invisible. One chilly Saturday morning, Maya visited the local shelter. She wasn't sure what drew her there, only that something was missing, and she was finally strong enough to find it. She walked past the rows of cages, stopping at a small brown dog curled into the corner. The sign read, Milo, 3 years old, abandoned, very timid, needs patience. Maya knelt, and the dog looked up at her, wide-eyed and wary. She saw herself in that gaze, the hesitation, the hope, the ache to trust again. She reached out gently. It's okay, she whispered. I get it. Milo didn't move at first, but slowly, carefully, he stepped forward and pressed his nose into her hand. They went home together that afternoon. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in morning walks, in slow, quiet meals, in the softness of Milo's head on her lap. They were two souls learning safety again. And this time, Maya listened when her heart and her grandma whispered wisdom, because men who shout at dogs often have violence buried deep, and women who learn to leave, they become their own sanctuary. The morning air is crisp, the kind that smells like change. Maya walks slowly, Milo's leash slack in her hand as he trots beside her. He's stronger now, still cautious, but no longer scared, just like her. They turn the corner and pass by her old street. The house stands there, familiar yet hollow. The garden is overgrown, curtains closed. A for rent sign hangs slightly crooked in the yard, and then the front door opens. Calvin steps out, coffee in hand. Their eyes meet for a split second. Milo stops. His body stiffens, ears alert. A low, warning growl hums from his chest, not out of fear, but knowing. Calvin hesitates on the porch, his face pale, as if the wind had carried Maya's story back to him, bit by bit, until he could no longer deny it. Maya doesn't flinch. She doesn't pause or turn away. She simply walks on, head high, breath steady, not a word exchanged, not a word needed. Grandma Pearl's voice returns to her like a breeze through trees. A man who shouts at dogs shouts at souls, and if he shouts at souls, baby, he don't deserve yours. Milo nudges her leg, relaxing again as they move farther from the past. The weight that once lived in her chest doesn't follow. They reach the art centre. Children's laughter echoes from inside. Maya opens the door and is greeted by colour, warmth, and the sparkle of possibility. Her students gather around, excited to show their latest work. Milo finds his favourite rug in the corner and curls up contentedly, and Maya, with paint on her hands and purpose in her heart, smiles. She isn't broken. She never was. She was simply waiting for the quiet space where her soul could speak, and now she listens. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.